Station, where our veterans' voices are heard. MBR Talk.
Hey, thanks for supporting our channel by watching and listening.
Find us on the web at mbradio.us.
Desde Brooklyn hasta el sol del Medio Oriente, José Flores con fuego en la mente. Raised in the Bronx where dreams don't sleep, donde el hambre te enseña a resistir. Section 8 life, no handouts, no cheat. He built his power from the pain on the street.
Cada golpe, cada lágrima caída fue el fuego que encendió su vida. Ahora camina con propósito y voz. José Flores, hear the noise. De la calle al combate, turned his trials into faith. Con disciplina y con fe, now he rises every day. From the block to the world sin temor.
You ever need a haircut?
So
that these kids can learn how to play instruments or want to, not just learn, but want to. But I think that there's a major shift.
Iraq to Korea, he led from the front. Now he lifts others, never just stunts. Hoy es mentor, líder, amigo.
¿Qué pasa, mi gente? Welcome to the Motivated Mindset. I'm your host, Jose Flores, proud Latino, born in New York City, straight out of Bronx, raised in Brooklyn. Yeah, how you doing? But check this out. That's that New York grit, right? That hustle, that resilience. It didn't just raise me. It forged me. ¿Tú entiendes, mi gente? I'm a combat veteran with 30 years of service in the United States Army. Hoorah! And before we go any further, I want to salute my veterans and my first responders tuning in right now or when you watch this again. Much respect, mucho respeto siempre. In this chapter of my life, I wear a couple of hats, but this one is from New York. You like that? Thank you very much. I'm a motivational speaker, certified personal trainer, and I am a certified mediator and the end-of-life death doula. But titles don't tell the real story. I do this work because I'm called to serve. Because I know struggle personally. Because I've lived pressure, loss, reinvention, and purpose on the other side of pain when you go through it. And this podcast exists for one reason, mi gente, una razón, to challenge comfort, right? To strengthen mindset, to remind you that where you start does not get to decide where you finish. A donde tú acabaste. Here on the Motivated Mindset, we walk, we talk, we do the resilience, discipline, leadership, faith, culture, and the courage it takes to keep going when life hits you bien duro, hard. You know why? Because we keep it real. New York City real. Straight talk, no sugarcoating, Bronx humor included. You hear me? How you doing? You work out? But check this out. You may laugh. You may even reflect. You might even get uncomfortable. But I promise you this, mi gente. How you doing? Check this out. You will leave a little stronger than when you press that play button. Because this isn't just about motivation, mi gente. Nah. This is about transformation. ¿Tú me entiendes lo que te digo? Con un poco de español. Today, I'm honored to welcome Dr. J. Bruce Stewart, a retired Air Force Lieutenant Colonel, that's one, and he is one of the nation's leading voices on leadership, inclusion, and team performance. He served as the federal government D&I thought leader, where he created the Inclusion Quotient. That's the benchmark engagement model across the federal sector. He previously led workforce diversity efforts at OPM, co-chaired at a White House initiative to increase diversity in STEM and help implement President Obama executive order on diversity and inclusion. Dr. Stewart has lectured at MIT, Harvard, West Point, NSA, the Pentagon, and serves as an expert consultant to the National Institute of Health. He is the author of multiple leadership books, including The Click, The Code, and on Amazon bestseller, The Race Ahead. With a new book releasing in March of 2026, he's going to talk about, this is a conversation about leadership that works, teams that click and connect that matters. Before we get started in today's episode with you, I want to make sure that if you value conversations and purpose-driven content, please support and show the channel. Like the video, subscribe to it with the channel, and share it with someone who needs a mind shift. Your support allows me to bring in powerful guests and meaningful conversations straight a ti, to you. All right, family, let's get straight into it. Let's see what we got. This is the motivated mindset. Dame un momento y te voy a señalar algo. I'm about to show you something. Yeah, here we go.
The interview of the week is brought to you by Jersey Mike's, a sub above.
¿Qué pasa? Welcome, Bruce. Gracias. Welcome, my man.
Hey, Jose! I want you to play that intro song again. I was sitting there, I thought I was back in New York City, at the club. I like that.
Nah, I appreciate it. The first time I heard that, I was like, "Oh, I got to get my salsa steps back in." No.
Yeah. No, that was popping.
No, gracias. Thank you so much, man. But first of all, thank you for being on my podcast. I appreciate you. We've had some really good, solid conversations prior, and it's been an honor. And I can't wait to meet you. Give you a big hug, my brother. Cannot wait. So, people want to know before we get into your awesome work, who is Dr. Bruce Stewart? Where you from?
So a lot of people always kind of give me a side eye when I tell them this, but I'm originally from Kansas. Yeah, there's black folks in Kansas. Mm-hmm. Born and raised actually in Topeka and Kansas City. So okay. I am a big Chiefs fan, just to let you all know. So we haven't had a little down year, but my Kansas Jayhawk basketball team seems to be doing pretty well. So yeah, born and raised in Topeka, Kansas. Went to college for a year till I ran out of money. And in our discussions, just like you, kept on seeing all these military commercials about join the military and get your college paid for. So I said, So ended up joining the military and really not wanting to really, as I can't remember who says that, but I always consider myself a lover, not a fighter. So I wasn't trying to go someplace where I was going to be in a lot of combat, but ended up going into the Air Force to be an air traffic controller because I thought that was a nice, decent job I could get out in only 4 years and do on the civilian side. But instead, I got talked into going into special operations with a buddy of mine. And next thing I know, I'm jumping out of planes, stationed at the 82nd Airborne out of Fort Bragg and flying all over the place. So, but as we had talked before, I wouldn't change a thing. It's joining the military is one of the best things that I've ever done. So, was able to get my education in the military, finished my degree in industrial technology, went on and got my graduate degree in information systems, and some years back got my PhD at Northeastern University in law and policy. So that's kind of me. You kind of talked about already where I some of the positions I held, but that's basically me in a nutshell.
Yeah. And what as a young man, what were some of the moments that shaped who you are today growing up with mentors, teachers, coaches? What were some of the things that influenced who you are today?
So as far as coaches are concerned, hey, I was a great athlete in junior high, but as soon as I made it to high school, things kind of went on the down. In other words, I ended up joining band, right? So I played. But hey, I'm telling you, Jose, we had some top hats that were to die for, man. So there was a lot of positive mentors in my life, but foremost was my father, right? So and one of the things that we'll talk about this during this podcast is this whole notion around resilience, right? Yes. And so I learned that from my dad and some of the challenges that he and my uncles went through at the end of World War II. And just real quickly, one of the things that really impacted the way I look at life is, initially, I didn't say this, but initially I started to get out of the Air Force and join the Army National Guard because I wanted to become a helicopter pilot. Wow. That was my dream. Yeah. And you have to, just like get into the military, you got to take the ASVAB or whatever. So you got to take the pilot test. For the first time in my life, I failed the test. I didn't score high enough to get in. And you talk about shattered. I was completely shattered, you know. And I remember like it was yesterday, my dad loaded me up in a truck and took, stopped at Kentucky Fried Chicken, bought us a whole box of wings, took me on the highway, and we just talking, laughing, throwing wings out the window. And he said, hey, whatever you do, you never give up. You go back, you study hard, and you retake that test. And 6 months later, I retook the test and scored off the charts. Now, I ended up still not, getting my commission.
Right.
I didn't become a helicopter pilot, but that was a thing that stood out. My dad, rest his soul, was the most influential person.
Yeah, it's funny you say. My last unit in Korea, I was assigned to an aviation unit, Apache, and I tell you, it was so tight being with them officers and warrant officers, and it was just like the Air Force. As far as we were all together, and we would send the officers off and the enlisted support in them. But it was one of the tightest units that I ever been in my career. Yeah. I mean, keeping them aircraft flying, whatever it took. But now you would have been a great. But I'm glad you didn't. I'm glad you're here, because you can ask any Army personnel. The Air Force dining facility is the best.
Hey, we used to eat well.
They do. I mean, every time we go to the field, be MREs, meals ready to eat for the civilians. As we say, meals ready to excrete. All right, how you doing? But but them cats are some of the smartest guys, flying them, especially the technology we had talked about before. How we were talking about it's been 35 years since Desert Storm,
right?
And all the changes,
unbelievable.
That we've gotten. And I know in the Air Force, that's one thing I learned about the Air Force. It's all about education and so on. And when did that pass off for you that you started, I know as an officer, that you just say, education's the key for me? How did that come about for you?
Yeah. So again, my parents kind of instilled that in me at an early age. So I was kind of always about education. And when I got into the military, and the thing I didn't tell you before, Jose, is that I actually started off my career enlisted.
Oh, so, okay.
Yeah. So I was enlisted. So when I realized that if I wanted to become an officer, right, you had to get your education, and get accepted into the school and all that kind of stuff. So that's always so I went to school at night, like a lot of vets did at that time, and it was what it was, and it turned out for me fairly well. Was able to get my degree, then apply for officer school, got in, and kind of the rest is history.
Wow, it is hard, especially as an enlisted service member, to go to college, because you got to do a full-time job and then get that college in when you can. Like I know University of Maryland was a huge one for us in the Army. I think we call them Mustangs when you go from enlisted to officer. Some of the best officers I had, my best officer I ever had was a female commander. Unbelievable. She was from, I think, Detroit, and it was one of the best commands. She came in enlisted and became an officer. So I know how hard that was for you to go through that, because you still had to do your job and so on, and still perform your job. We had talked about earlier about when you said you joined the Army like I did, not to go to war, as we call it, campaigns and so on. Right. And what was that for you the first time? Say, hey, we're going to do what? We're actually going to do this?
Were you in the room when that happened? Because that's exactly what I said. I love these war movies, right? Where everybody's real brave and hey, listen. Even though I had me and the fellas, we had all that training and all that kind of stuff. When you get that, when that balloon goes up and you get that call that you're going to be deployed somewhere, and there's hostilities.
Yes.
That makes you rethink your decisions, and really, gives you an opportunity to really understand how precious life is, right?
Yes.
So, no, it was for a lot of us, we go when we're fairly young, and so it's a life-changing experience, and so that's what I really got out of it, and that it sure would be nice if there was a way that we could resolve our differences in our conflicts without having to, shoot at each other and drop bombs and all that kind of stuff. I mean, defense of the country is important, but man, I sure like the ability to be able to dialogue and extend peace to folks around the world.
No, absolutely. And I remember when that happened, I think we talked earlier, I was a young E5 and they said, and I said, we're actually going. And at that point, and I would tell you, it was terrifying in my mind.
Absolutely.
And just real quick, when I was married, me and both my spouse, we were dual military. So when we talk about hardships in the military, we had just had a son. He was 3 months old. We're in Germany. My mom had to come from New York City, take my son, and we both deployed. We didn't see our son till he was almost 1 year old. And so, but we had to put all that aside because we had something to focus on. But God willing, we were in a Patriot unit. We all were able to come back, And we look at back when we talk about resilience and all that, but that's really, really, really deep. And what we're going to do, we're going to take a quick commercial break. But for the audience, please put your questions. If you have any questions to ask Dr. Stewart. And when we come back, we're going to talk about mentorship, growth, and networking building, Bruce, after this commercial. And we'll break and let's see what we got. You're going to dig this commercial. Check this out. Here we go.
It's the guts and it's the glory. 100 stripes, 100 stories. It's the Pledge of Allegiance on the 4th of July. It's them handwritten letters from home. It's them sleepless nights alone. It's his newborn baby he left with his wife. Mr. Red, White, and Blue, lay down, here's a line. Mr. Red, White, and Blue, for these stars and stripes, hey. From the fields of Indiana to the swamps of Louisiana, to the golden coast of California, Uncle Sam's the only family he's got. His purple heartbeat won't stop. And his 18th birthday was the day he was born. Mr. Red, White, and Blue, lay down, here's the light. Mr. Red, White, and Blue, for these stars and stripes. Mr. Red, White, and Blue, stand on the front line.
The station where our veterans' voices are heard. MBR Talk.
Hey, thanks for tuning in. Welcome, Quack.
Program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent.
The web at mbradio.com.
Bruce, okay, what do you think of that song, brother?
Man, you know what? You missed your calling because you should be a DJ. That's what you're supposed to be. I mean, I'm bumping with the song before, and now I'm all patriotic and eyes welling up. No, that was great. That's a great song.
Every time, if I had hair, it'd be up, like I said before, because it just gives me goosebumps. You know what's funny, Bruce, is that when I joined, and I think like many of us, it wasn't about being patriotic. I didn't even know what the American flag was. It was just a vehicle to get out of the situation I was in. Yeah. And then over time, those skill sets, those values that we learned in the military became part of who I am.
Absolutely.
It's been an amazing. Even now, I still forget that I retired, but I feel like I'm in sometimes.
Yeah.
I tell people, in COVID, real quick, it was like what the prisoners and military members have in common. We're both used to being confined and so on. When we're deployed, except we have a little bit more freedom than them. But understanding that the life in the military is not always easy. And one of the things you're going to talk about is resilience and all that. But we already have a question from our girl Yvette that she wants you to answer. She said, ask him about the game changers.
Yeah. So look, I don't know if you know about this, Jose, but we, a group of us created a course, a week-long course in person. Mm-hmm. And then additional 6 weeks online around how to implement inclusion strategies within the federal government.
Okay.
And so that happened while I was at the Office of Personnel Management. And we had several, it was competitive to get in. Like we only had so many slots.
Right.
Folks like Yvette and others would fill out kind of an application and tell us why they wanted to get in the course. And we had a selection panel, and they through a highly competitive process, they got selected. And I tell you, for a lot of us, it was kind of not to use a pun, but a game-changing experience.
Gotcha.
And one of the, I'll talk about later, but one of the things that came out of that was this whole notion of feeling like the things that we did and were involved in mattered, right? Mm-hmm. And one of the ways that people can be resilient in the times of stress and loss is to understand and to know that you matter, that what you're doing is making a difference. It changes everything. The way we started this is, or kind of promoted this, was about positivity and a growth mindset and resiliency. And all those things are really important. But what's even more important is the foundation that they're built upon. And the foundation that they're built upon is this whole notion of understanding that you are significant. What you offer to everybody else matters. And it's easy for us that are parents, we understand that, right? And I'll go through kind of the little acronym that I put together around this, but we understand because our kids, we know we matter to them, right? But when people are deprived of that kind of relationship, that's what starts to lead to disconnection and loneliness and self-doubt. And so one of the things that I, would hope that our short time together here, that people get out of this is to understand, even if you might have lost your federal job or got put out early, or kind of forced to be out, whatever the case may be, is that at the end of the day, there's a way that you can reinstill that kind of vigor of understanding that you matter and what you have to offer your community and the world needs, right? So don't ever let yourself be down too much. And that's kind of what happens sometimes when we kind of throw out these words like positivity or just be thankful. Yeah, that's all well and good, but that's not getting me another job. That's not making me necessarily feel better about myself. Those things are important, but at the end of the day, what really matters is understanding that you matter and you need to get what you do well out into the world.
Gotcha. No, that sounds stupendous. And I'm assuming the program is not going on anymore. That's one of the things that, or is it?
No, it's not going on. But there have been some rumblings that a couple of us might get together and start throwing that out. But it's kind of a challenge in light of the situation and the environment that we find ourselves in.
Yes.
Like we were talking about before, though, Jose, we got to keep the fight on.
Absolutely.
Many of us have put, too much blood, sweat, and tears into helping organizations and communities create environments where everybody feels like they matter.
Mm-hmm.
And we've devoted our lives to that, and we've committed and dedicated our lives to that. And we're not going to just, let whatever group or administration or whatever thinking undermine that without a fight. Now, there's some things that we could probably have done better with. Absolutely. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But the idea is that at a bottom line is that everybody should be able to work and be treated in a dignified, respectful, and a fair way.
Got it. Absolutely. And you're right. People do throw words about, staying resilient and being positive, but you're absolutely correct. But how does with them, right? What's in it for me? How do I get to the next level in my life, whatever I'm trying to reach, and so on? No, that makes perfect sense. We have another question. And the question is, how can a person's mindset influence the tone of an entire group and intentionally cultivate a more positive social network?
Oh, that's a great question. So in a word, I would say connection.
Okay.
Right? So when we're talking about, like, Carol Dweck is the Stanford psychologist who did a lot of work around this notion of a growth mindset. And for those of you that might not necessarily be familiar with the term, a growth mindset versus a deficit mindset is that you just see things or challenges that are laid in front of you. You see it as a potential to be better. You see it as an opportunity rather than, something that's going to set you back, right? And that's all well and good. So growth mindset, being able to see the opportunities and challenges that we might face or setbacks that we might encounter is great. But the way that you operationalize that is by establishing connections with the people that you work with in a positive way, right? So my influence on others around me is a positive way because I have something significant to offer them. And that's kind of how it starts to kind of become contagious. And one of the things I'll talk about later is this whole notion of a social network. What people don't understand is that when we look at the highest correlation of how people are successful in the organization. So most people think it's about working hard, right? And working hard is important and all that kind of stuff. But when we looked at like what is the number one thing that predicts a person's success within their organization, our research has shown, and not only ours, but others has shown, it's the diversity of your social network. In other words, it's the number of different connections that you have with people that are different from each other and different from you. Yes. If you do that, that'll give you the best chance to be successful. And that'll help spread that growth mindset, that positivity around, because as all of us know, emotions are contagious. Yes. So the research is clear on this. If you've ever worked with a negative person, like hey, ladies, if you're out there, don't take offense to this, but I call them bad news Bettys, right? They could be bad news Bretts or whatever, but they have a tendency. If you ever worked with anybody like that, they have a tendency to bring everybody down. There'd be the person that says, Bob, the supervisor, only give us 59 minutes for lunch instead of 65. And you're like, damn, what I mean?
No, I get it. Yeah,
I'm telling the truth.
Oh, yes, you are. No, you're right. I've met many of those. You're absolutely correct. But it's, it's almost like when you were talking about the network, it's like a force multiplier.
Yes.
And expanding. Absolutely.
And we have to expand our notion of how we see each other. It's not just about what's on the outside, about race or gender or disability, whatever the case may be. Those aspects of who you are important. But what I argue in my book, Linked, that comes out in March. See how I did that? See how I slid into that?
That was good. That was good.
Not, you know, I mean, you're not the only cool person on this. You know, I might not be from New York, but I'm from Topeka, Kansas.
That was smooth, bro.
Right? So, so that's kind of how it works.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. No, but I got you. You know, and we have another question. Somebody said, you know who this is from? She said, "How does adopting a growth mindset change the way we handle conflict or misunderstandings?"
Very good. So one of the things that Dr. Dweck talks about with regard to establishing a growth mindset, one of the skills that you can develop that really has a good impact, and that is the skill of empathy. Right? And what I mean, see, a lot of people get empathy mixed up with sympathy. Sympathy is that you feel sorry for someone, blah, 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 which is, you know, it has its place. But empathy, or what I call in my book, compassionate empathy, doesn't just stop at trying to put yourself in the shoes of somebody, because that's what empathy is. It's looking at that person without judgment. And in these days, especially with regard to political ideology, it's a hard thing to do. And I'm telling everybody that as a person, number one, who struggles with that. It struggles with how people can see the world so differently than I do. But if you want to be able to push out that kind of growth mindset and get it contagious, you know, in your particular organization or community, the first skill you have to develop is the skill of what I call compassion empathy, of being able to put yourself in the shoes of someone else with no judgment.
Got it. Absolutely. We have another question from Charmaine Johnson Burgos. She says, "Agree, you learn more when you are surrounded by different cultures and mindsets in the workplace."
I mean, there's no question about it.
Yeah.
You know, the research is clear about this. That's why when people make statements that says that diversity is not our strength or the strength of this country, I don't know what planet you're coming. See, there I go. See, that's what I'm saying. I got to work on my own empathy, right? But I you know, if I could get in a room with just 15 minutes with people who feel like that, I could explain to them, because what they're doing is that they're collapsing this notion of diversity around just a couple of identities, like racial identity or gender identity or sexual orientation. And it's those of us that have worked in the field understand it's far more than that. Like there might not be anything more important than cognitive diversity. The differences in how people think. And you know this, Jose, from being in the military just like me. When we went to basic training, we had, you know, I had my best friend ended up being a kid from a farm town, the backwoods of Missouri, who had never seen a black person before. We ended up being the matter of fact, we were so close. I don't know if those of you out there in TV land, if y'all saw Driving Miss Daisy, if you don't have cable, check it out, right? So we were so close. You remember back in the day, Jose, when they had those Datsun B210s? That was kind of a popular car.
Absolutely.
Well, I needed a car, and I wanted this Datsun B210 so badly, but it was a stick, and I didn't know how to drive a stick at that time.
Right.
But my buddy from backwoods Missouri knew how to drive a stick. He said, "Buy the car anyway, Bruce, and I'll just drive it around." It was like Miss Daisy, driving Miss Daisy.
No, absolutely. No. And we have another comment from TC Cooper. I love her. She says, "Emotions are contagious." Yes, I think you have mentioned that. You know,
absolutely. Look, if y'all got a significant other, I don't need to say any more, do I?
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah.
What's wrong? Nothing. Well, okay.
Yeah,
Well, there we, you know. Okay, here we go. Right. So, absolutely.
And I know, Bruce, you always you talk a lot about networking, and as we get ready to go into it, how has your networking has evolved since you started? How is that? What does that look like for you?
That's a great question, Jose. You know, the number one thing that I had to force myself to do was I had to be intentional about it. Because believe it or not, and Yvette and others that have worked with me will tell you this, I'm a natural introvert, right? So when COVID hit and people had to stay in the house and all that kind of stuff, and, you know, I mean, as long as I got working cable, I'm pretty
yeah.
good, man. And internet, I'm pretty good. But that's all well and good. But sometimes to be successful, and those of you out there in TV land, you understand this, you have to make yourself uncomfortable. That's how you grow. And I had to be intentional about reaching out to folks, not only within my family, right? Which is that tight circle that we have, but there's also another network over here that's based on like what we call weak ties, like people you don't talk to every day, but they can have information that's valuable to your potential success in your organization.
Gotcha. No, absolutely. And somebody said definitely some Bretts. So, and people are agreeing with it. And, what happens to a social network when people operate from fear or security or just there's no growth in it? How do people move around in that space? And we know that's happening as we speak.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's so fascinating about this, and what always kind of draws me to these topics is the universality of them, right? So like the way that you go about changing your mind is the same way when we look at it from a network lens that you can go about changing a community or organization. The same rules apply. That's why network science is so valuable for us, because we can apply that lens at any level of society, right? And so one of the challenges has always been that it's if you don't understand the contagiousness of the actions that you take, then that's what starts to sometimes fracture a network. And what you're saying right now, and those of you that have worked in organizations before, what starts to happen is that under times of loss and stress, people start hunkering down and they start just relying on those echo chambers or those tight little circles of folks that agree with us, that think like us, that have some kind of connection to us. And we forget all about the weak ties, right? And just real quickly to understand this, what I mean by this network science, laying it out like this: strong ties versus weak ties. Strong ties are the ties that you have like within your family, right? Like people, you know your family, they know each other. That's a strong tie community, right? Weak ties are like a lot of us that coming up in the military, we lived in apartment buildings. So we might know people by their face or whatever, but we didn't share a lot of personal information. That's a weak tie. And what people don't understand is that those ties can be just as valuable, if not more valuable, than your strong ties. And so you got to have a mix of both of these type of ties if you want to be successful. That's what we call a productive culture. And you see that pattern in, for instance, in Broadway plays that have been really successful, like Cats or West Side Story. When they researched it, they found out that there was a group of actors who never worked together before. And then there was a group of actors who had strong ties with each other. When you bring those two together, you get that sweet spot. And that's what we're talking about. That's what we're talking about here.
Okay. I have another question that says, if you could teach one resilience skill to everyone, what would it be?
And this has changed me. This has changed for me over the last year in researching for my book. And if I had to choose one skill, actually would be two that are kind of combined, right? So one of the things is this whole notion of mattering, understanding that you matter, right? Because it gives you the opportunity to kind of bounce back. That's what we kind of mean by resilience. And the way that you bounce back is by depending and relying on the connections that you have intentionally established. There's nothing. Remember, I told you the story about my dad getting me, together in that long ride down the highway, throwing chicken bones out when I had, suffered the worst setback up until that time in my life, right? And I was shattered. The way I was able to bounce back is because I was connected to my dad. He introduced me to some other folks who could help me study. And before you know it, I was back to where I was, and not only back, but I was even better. And that's the kind of two things that I would say as far as resilience is concerned. Understanding in a deep down place that you matter, and what you do, everybody else needs around you. And then making sure that you have established your social network to the point where when you need to be able to rely on people, they're there to be relied upon.
Cool beans. We have another question. Bruce says, Dr. Stewart, in your work on resilience and connection, how can someone maintain a growth mindset and positivity when their social network feels emotionally unsafe, dismissive, or resistant to change?
Very good question. Get you another network.
Mm-hmm.
Look, just because people are close to you in proximity or kinship or whatever, doesn't mean that those are the right people for you to be in your network. Like, we all got family members that, you know, I mean, I see you I'm just saying, Jose, I see you at the reunion. We can dap it up at the reunion, but you into things that, you know, so that's why you always have to be on the lookout of being able to, you know, expand your network to folks that you might not necessarily just off the top, you know, make a connection with. But when you really are intentional and you think about it, you say, hey, you know what? I need to get to know that person better. Now, you don't do that in a way that makes you feel dirty, that you're trying to take advantage of somebody. See, that's why people don't like networking, because they have the wrong idea about what it really means. Mm-hmm. Whenever you network or you try to establish a connection with somebody, you offer them something that will benefit them first, not the other way around. If the first time that you meet somebody, the first time I meet you, Jose, hey, Jose, you know, could you do a nice blurb on my book? I don't know where you're from. I don't know. Right. And so people kind of, you know, that's not what we're talking about here. You be intentional about the network that you're establishing and offer something that you do that matters to them. That's how you kind of, you know, integrate that whole notion of a growth mindset into a toxic network.
Right. And Bruce, now with network, what has AI done, especially now with network? How has that changed the game? You know, how do we approach that, especially for some people who may not be too good with ChatGPT or even AI? You know, what could you say about that?
Yeah, so here's a couple things, right? Number one, if you're not familiar with ChatGPT or another AI agent, you better get familiar with it. That's number one. Number two, what people don't understand is that, and this is the challenge and frustration I have with our government, not only based on political ideology or whatever, you know, all sides to me, but the number one conversation we should be having in this country right now is not about all these other things, but it's about how we're going to manage and adapt to, you know, the universality of AI, because it's going to change everything, and it's going to take away a lot of jobs. It's going to make you rethink how to do your job, or what value, or how you're going to matter in an economy and a community when everything can be automized, right? So but it doesn't have to be a negative for us per se, because one of the things that AI does real well, right, especially in our kind of business, is that it has access to a whole lot of information that it can organize for you. And so when I do a book now, I don't have to take, like, those of you that have written a book before, you understand that most of the time is spent on researching the stuff that you're going to write. It doesn't have to be like that anymore now. And this is a good lesson for all of us now. We've always talked about this kind of in leadership, but now it's more important. The time you really have to spend is developing the question you want to ask. Like, the questions have become the most important thing. In AI, we call them prompts. The way you ask the question determines the output that you're going to get. So the better the question, the better output that you get. So if I was to give one bit of advice to everybody out there with regard to AI, is you don't have to learn the ins and outs. Like, most of you don't know how television works. You just watch the shows, right? Right. But with regard to AI, get better at asking questions and how to format, you know, good prompts, because it can change, as, again, not to use a pun, but it could be a game changer for you.
Okay. We have a question right here that says, if you could give one mindset related message to the next generation, what would it be?
if I could give one mindset, well, actually, again, there's a couple, but I would say connect with people that either look, think, or act differently than you do, and develop that empathetic muscle that you have. You know, try to learn how to be non-judgmental around people and groups that might look at the world differently than you do.
Okay. Here we have another question that says, what suggestions do you have for someone who was riffed to rebuild or reestablish themselves?
Yeah. So the acronym that I've kind of created that I think helps with regard to this whole notion around mattering and resiliency is the acronym of SEEN, SEEN, right? And what I can have Jose do is put my personal website in there, and you guys can go, and I'll actually do a LinkedIn article after this that you can read. But basically, the acronym, the S stands for significance, right? And so the idea is to understand where it is that you can make a difference, right? Like where is your presence really needed? The second is around this notion of being, I've already talked about empathy, so I won't go through that whole thing again, but understanding and developing on how to be non-judgmental, right? There's another E in there, and it's about developing your skills, about being enabling people around you to be able to do better. I don't know if any of you have been in my class, but I always talk about an NBA basketball player. Oh, shoot, what's his name? He played for San Antonio. Now I'm just having a brain dump. But anyway, he never led Shane Battier. Right. He used to play for Duke in college, played in the pros, played about 12 years, was never a superstar, never made an all-star team. But when the data analysts decided to kind of measure the impact that a person has on the rest of their team when they're out on the court, they call it a plus-minus metric. They found out that Shane Battier had the highest plus-minus metric. It wasn't like the LeBron James or Steph Curry's or anybody like that. It was a role player. And the reason that is so important is because there's something essential that you offer. And that's what you need to find. What is it that's not interchangeable about you? Like, if you interview with me, with other folks, why is it that I need you and not them? Like what is your uniqueness? And then the last thing is need. Just find a place, again, where, you feel needed. Like people feel it when you're gone, right? Like things don't kind of operate the same way when you're not around.
Right. No, absolutely. And Magdalia said, I live in a world of questions. Never assume. Keep asking questions.
Absolutely.
Like you have been saying, before. And one of the things is we getting down, and everybody, I've put both his LinkedIn and his website in the comments, and I'll be showing it in the bottom also. And then Magdalia also said, I think she put it up there, significance, empathy, enabling, and for need.
Yeah. So, and you can go just real quickly, Jose. My personal website is Dr. J. Bruce Stewart, no spaces.com.
Okay. Definitely.
Now remember, it's not that, see, I used to get people mixed up. They used to be disappointed when I showed up to speak to places because they said Dr. J was coming. And they, Jose. So I had to go with the whole name. I couldn't just do
right. Oh my goodness. And Bruce, is there anything that we haven't covered that you wanna put out before as we get ready to go down to the end? Anything you want to cover or talk about? Upcoming books, upcoming things coming up? Anything that
I just have the linked how to connect a disconnected world coming out in March. So hopefully you all get a chance to check that out. My other books, The Click Code, Why Some Teams Click and Others Don't, is all about teamwork. So if you're working in a situation or even applying it to your family, you can do that, right? And then the other one is The Race Ahead, Overcoming Racial Bias by Rewiring the American Mind. Is about, kind of what's going on right now and how we can move beyond that. But no, that's it. I, like I said, it's very nice to meet you, Jose. I appreciate everybody who's listened to this. And I really was thrilled to get the invite to be able to share some time with you.
Bruce, I was the one that was on, and then I found out you were Air Force vet, and I'm like, what? With the best dining facilities, that's stupendous. You can't beat that, But when we talk about how things can be contagious like fear, we've learned in the military, if a leader shows fear, it is contagious to those below him.
Absolutely.
So, how can leaders how can I say intentionally cultivate environments where positivity and how can I say connections thrive? How can leaders do that?
Yeah. So the first thing that a leader can do is to be authentic.
Mm-hmm.
Right? All of us appreciate authenticity.
Yes.
So Jose, it's not the problem of being afraid, right? Because when I led folks into combat situations, I was afraid. And everybody knew it. We all were afraid.
Yeah.
Nobody made an issue of it because we were all authentic about it. We had developed a connection amongst us that, hey, we are who we are, right? And so the other thing that a leader can do, and some of you have already probably been exposed to this, but it's this whole notion and concept around psychological safety. This whole notion that it's safe for you to really share your honest, deep felt perspective and opinions with those around you or those in leadership positions. And you as leaders need to make sure you cultivate an environment where people feel like they can speak up and disagree with you in public. I don't like this whole notion. Why have psychological safety if people have to disagree with you in private? How does that help, right? If I'm in a meeting and organizations that did the best are the organizations that put all the differences out there on the table for everybody to see so we can talk about it, right? Nobody is fearful of being able to speak their mind. And that's the kind of environment and culture that as leaders, we need to really try to cultivate and enable.
Oh man, no, that's a great information that leaders need. And we always talk about influencers. I always get people who say, well, I'm not a leader. No, but you do make a difference, even as if you're not a leader, in influencing, getting out there. You put out information that I hope people can see. And I'll be putting that in the chat. It's already done. And as you go down, you will see the banner with the LinkedIn that's been put in the chat. And of course, the website. And when they go on the website, what are they going to see, Bruce? What's all on the website?
So the Small World Group, you're gonna see like some space stuff. I'm a big science. Just click. Just the web guy wanted to take it off. I said, "You better not take it off." So just click off. Click through that and get to the good stuff. Right. That kind of thing. But you'll see the classes that we offer and all that kind of stuff. And on my personal website, you'll see, where you can get the books and send requests for me to speak or do some training for your organization.
Okay. And I just want to show what we got coming up next week. I think this is the one with the 24th. I always get these mixed up. This is the one we got. Make sure I'm getting it right. We have Miss Lois Mobley. No, I was right the first time. We got Miss Michelle Pacheco, and then she's the founder of Reset and Rise Consulting. Please tune in next week. I'll be putting this out. And and I think she was a Marine, if I got that right. So hey, we got veterans all over the place.
Yeah.
Army. And then we got Miss Mobley, and she's a Marine. Once a Marine, always a leader. I love that. Ooh. I love that. So she'll be coming on. That's what we got coming up on. And of course, and people, if you like what you see, hey, subscribe, scan the QR code, and let's support, because we get great, like Dr. Stewart being here, and just dropping golden nuggets of life, of how we operate, because we have to live here, you know. So please scan it. I'll be putting it back out. And Dr. Stewart, I want to say thank you for the bottom of my heart for being here and just giving us your time. I'm honored having you here, especially as an Air Force. How you doing? You know, I love it. I love it, man.
Normally, we don't get a lot of love in the Air Force because we don't, you know, when I ask people what do they say in the Army, you know, Army go, "Hoo," and I ask them, you know, what they say in the Air Force, everybody's crickets, you know.
Oh, I can tell you what it say. Hey, like this, the cable's out. The cable's out.
Hey, watch yourself, Jose. Time for me to go. See, folks, it wasn't gonna take long to get pot shots at because he got an Army person coming in next and the Marine and all.
Nah, Bruce. Hey, I want to say thank you, and to all my guests, to the people that have given questions and just being here. And I know a lot of people can take a lot that you give away, because I always say knowledge is worthless unless you share it. You know, we can't be crabs in a bucket, pulling each other down. We got to be uplifting each other up. And can you say something about Monday? We got MLK. What, you know, Monday.
Yeah. And that's great. My only challenge, and I still want to end on positivity, right? But
yes.
You know, I love what the NAACP does, because they always talk about it's not a day off, it's a day on.
Right.
And it's great to appreciate MLK Day and all the history months, but appreciation is not, you know, rolling up the sleeves and actually showing how MLK and different groups within our the history of our country, how they have had a significant role in the success of our country, not only from the past but right now, right?
Yes.
So the appreciation is good, but we got to show folks that this is not just something from history. This is something today and in the future. And if we're going to get together in the future, we have to work together.
Absolutely.
Today.
And we got Terry. Thank you for asking out. She says, Terry Lynch, another veteran of mine, she said the concept of, if I'm the smartest person in the room as a leader, I'm in the wrong room. That was a comment. Thank you, Terry, for sharing that.
Yeah.
And that is so true. But again, thank you, Dr. Stewart, for being on the show. And we're going to see you again, because I'm going to see you on that red carpet. I knew that guy. You know, but anything coming up, hey, we welcome you back on the show when you get ready to do your books. Anything, welcome you back. So
Jose, let me come back when my book comes out, you know.
No, absolutely.
I was wondering when you were going to ask about that.
Well, I got you. I got the 6.
Hey, Yvette, you know, make this better next time with him. He's supposed to ask that off the top.
I got you. I had to write that on my palm of my hand. I got you. We're gonna support you, man. But I know you are making the difference in the community, in the world, and for that, man, we need more Dr. Stewart. So I want to say thank you for the bottom of my heart, and to our people, everybody out there, our audience. Gracias de mi corazón for everything you do, man. And I'm gonna try to get that tape for you, man, so you can be dancing out there, brother Bruce.
Thank you, my brother. Hey, everybody, take care. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Life is like a duck. Tough times don't last, but tough people do. Here at Military Broadcast Radio, we're teaming up with our friends at Die Tired, the veteran-friendly music band spreading strength, resilience, and mental health awareness, one shirt at a time.
And check this out. Their brand new shirts feature broadcast beaker right on the breast pocket. A reminder that you can weather the storm, and you're never alone.
Shirts are only $25, and proceeds support giving veterans a voice. MBR's mission to teach veterans how to podcast and videocast. Because when our vets are talking, they're not overthinking. They're not second-guessing. Together, we stop the 22 stigma. Grab your shirt today at mbradio.us and hit the shop. Or go directly to toramerch.printavo.com/merch/dietiredband. That's toramerch.printavo.com/merch/dietiredband.
Suit up, stand strong.
Remember, we're unduckable together.
You're built tougher than the storm.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to Military Broadcast Radio. As we wrap up today's show, We want to remind you that the podcast of today's episode will be available right after we go off the air. So if you missed any part of the show or want to listen again, be sure to check it out. And remember, we're here to support and honor our veterans. Your stories and experiences matter, and we are committed to giving you a platform to share them. That's right. We're here to give our veterans a voice. So don't forget to catch the podcast and stay connected with us. Giving our veterans a voice.